debit cards didn't actually show up in like banks regularly in Japan until 2017-ish.
I didn't even know that.
I don't want to say that like for sure because, like the fact police are going to be like, wow. But yeah, so before that, it was just, you get your cash card, you have to get cash, and then you go, because everywhere is cash-based anyway, so you have to have cash. But nowadays, like I said, it's like 39% now, 39.3% accepts like digital and credit cards and stuff like that. So yeah, having a debit card makes sense versus before when it was only 13.2%.
Excuse me, Masen.
Welcome to another episode of the Excuse Me Masen podcast. I'm your host, Saul, and joining me today is Devin Yoshimoto. What's up, man?
Hello. What's going on?
Yeah, so before I hit the record button, you said something about Shogun, so let it rip.
Well, I just want to say that, I just remember me and my wife watched the last 2 episodes last night, and I was trying to not feel so intensely about it, but I was like, holy cow, this is pretty intense. And then the last part of the last episode, or maybe the whole last episode, we were just quiet. Like we weren't even laughing or talking about it anymore, making jokes or comments. We were just watching, and I'm pretty sure my mouth was just open the whole time. Man, it's a pretty great show, man. It's really good. Man, you liked it too, huh?
Yeah, after the season ended, I checked, will there be a season 2? And then according to what I found, it said the original only had 1 season anyway, so it's just going to end there. And then I saw on I think it was Facebook, probably 6 months or something later, there was a post saying they're going to do a 2nd season. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, do you think it's similar to Game of Thrones at all? The level of I don't know. Is it similar at all? Because I feel I kept thinking about Game of Thrones when I was watching it, but it's very different.
Yeah,
it's
I feel
really
it's on the way there, except in Game of Thrones, each house has its own story that goes on. But in Shogun, for example, that super old guy that has leprosy, you don't really see anything about his house. It's just him.
Yeah. This is okay, so that's it. It's basically one single storyline almost versus Game of Thrones was 15 storylines.
And everything somehow connects.
But man, it's compressed, super compressed, super intense.
Yeah. And then the girl who plays I don't know if she's the main character, but I guess one of the main characters, she's really good at what she does.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she was really good also in Godzilla. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, really?
The Godzilla TV show. That one was good.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen that. She was in that.
Check it out.
Man, yeah. They all did really. And then that Yabushige guy is the funniest character, probably the best. I think everybody loved him.
That's the guy from Battleship, right?
Oh, I don't know. But he's the guy that he's one of the lords.
Like a lighter skinned Japanese guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the Shogun's underling that keeps betraying him or something, right?
Yeah. It was the guy, he's the one at the beginning when he saw the English guy, he said, "Oh, say ore wa inu ja." And then he said I am a dog. He said, "Oh, ine, good boy. I am a dog.
Yeah.
That guy, man. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk to you about it because I knew you watched it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I wonder if I should say spoiler alert, anywhere.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even give away any spoilers, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Definitely watch it. You, and one other thing is you imagine seppuku scenes to be really cheesy. All these Japanese movies or parodies that you've seen your whole life. You're oh, seppuku, and it's just oh. But man, when you watch those seppuku scenes, and I'm not giving anything away. Of course, there's seppuku scenes in these kinds of movies, but this kind of show. But when you watch it, you feel you're watching it in real life, man. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Let's get into it. So today we're talking about the first culture shock experiences we had after moving to Japan. And the first thing that pops up in my head is, wow, that's a lot. But have you had a lot?
I don't think so. I mean, just off the top of my head, I don't think so because I've been coming here a lot. And I think maybe you have too, but I've been coming here a lot even before I moved here.
Mhm.
And then like a lot of my friends and a lot of our friends, our mutual friends are Japanese. So I don't know. I feel like not really, but after it's not initial. I think the culture shock comes like 5 years later.
Yeah. And then even some of the stuff we're going to talk about is not exactly culture shock. It's more like just surprising. Like you're like, whoa, I didn't know that, or something like that.
Yeah.
And one of them is actually like a pleasant surprise, or was for me. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first one we're talking about is how Japan is a cash-based society. So before we talk about any stories we have, let me just get into like why it's cash-based, based off of course, the research that I compiled. So Japan's preference for cash transactions stems from a blend of historical, cultural, and societal factors. With crime rates exceptionally low, Japan's homicide rate is around 0.2 per 100,000 people compared to 5.3 in the United States. So people here feel secure carrying and using cash with minimal fear of theft or mugging. Additionally, Japan's aging population plays a significant role as older generations who are accustomed to a cash-based economy find physical currency more reliable than digital methods. While cashless payments have increased from 13.2% in 2010 to 39.3% in 2023, the transition is slower than in many countries as traditional habits and trust in cash endure. It's a multifaceted reason. But yeah, so let me tell you a story relating to the first shocking experience for me. I was living in Otsuka in Tokyo with Kato, who's been on the show a couple of times, back in, I want to say 2007. And this one time we had a friend visit from Osaka. She's a mutual friend of you and me. And when she arrived, she was like, hey, why don't we go have lunch? And I was like, cool, there's a KFC down the street that I haven't visited yet. So let's check it out. So we went there. While I was at the counter, I was like, oh, I should probably ask if they accept cash because I heard that this is like a cash-based society. But this is KFC. It should be fine. So I was like, never mind. I'm not going to ask. So I just ordered my food right at the end. The lady was like, okay, that's going to be like da-da-da-da. And I was like, wait. I put my card on the little thingy. You know, they have those trays where you're supposed to put your money, right? And so I put the card there. And the lady's like, oh, in Japanese, she's like, oh, it's cash only. And I was like, say what? It's cash only. I was like, this is KFC. She's just like, yeah, it's cash only. I was like, you know, KFC is an American company, right? And then she just looked at me confused. And I was like, never mind, cancel my order. And then I told our friend, let's go somewhere else because I don't really carry cash on me ever. Even when we were in Saipan, I always just use my debit card. And then we're going to talk about that too. But anyways, so we ended up eating somewhere else. And then ever since then, even up to today, every time I go to a new restaurant, the first thing I ask is, you guys accept credit card? And if they say yes, then I'm like, okay, I'm down. And if not, I'm like, if you guys really want to eat here, I have to go to the ATM.
Yeah.
But you have any experiences with that?
No, not really. Like the only thing I can think of is, I don't know, like even up until today, I carry a lot of cash with me and I rarely use my credit card.
Yeah.
So I think for me, never really had any like, I don't know, issues with this. I usually paid a lot of cash. I mean, almost always in cash. And the one thing that was kind of a shock to me was how many coins you have to carry around with you everywhere.
Oh man.
So much so where you have to like have a coin. Sorry, I was going to curse again. You have to have a coin purse on you. And that was something I never had like in the States.
Yeah,
nobody ever wants to carry coins like in the States, or like in your car, like you throw it in like one of the cup holders or something, or you have your little pocket in your wallet.
Yeah.
But here you have to have a whole nother device to hold your coins for you.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh man, I didn't know what to do at the time. So I was using my grandmother's little coin purse that she gave me a long time ago.
Yeah. Man, that's an interesting point. You know, in Japan, the $1 equivalent and the $5 equivalent are both coins. And of course, even in America, those tend to be like the most commonly used, right? Between the 1, 5, and the 10. Yeah, so up to $5 you're carrying coins only. So like sometimes even mine, I'll have like 10 or 15 fives in there. And I'm just like, man, when I get home, I just find if there's somebody has like a piggy bank somewhere else and just throw it in there.
Like a 500 yen coin?
Yeah.
Oh, because you don't want to carry it?
Because I don't want to carry it, yeah.
I know. I remember like back home, we used to have like those water bottles, those big 5-gallon water jugs.
The 5-gallon, yeah. The jugs, yeah.
But I think it was my cousin or something. Not in Saipan, in Hawaii. She just filled that whole thing up with coins. It was like just coins like filled up in the water bottle that she didn't use or something like. And I don't know. Yeah, coins was a shock for me here in Japan.
Yeah. And then another thing related to how it's a cash-based society that kind of shocked me was I had, when I was in Saipan, I had a debit card since I was like 17. So that's like 21 years ago. And when I came to Japan and I opened my first account, it shocked me because I was like, okay, where's my debit card? And they're like, what's that? And I was like, debit card, you can buy stuff online. And they're like, oh, you can only get this thing called a cash card, which you can use to get money from the ATM. And I was like, what's the point of that if that little booklet you give me does the same thing? And they're just like, yeah, we don't have debit cards here in Japan at that time. So this was back during like 2011 or something. Debit cards didn't actually show up in like banks regularly in Japan until 2017-ish.
I don't even know that.
I don't want to say that like for sure because, like the fact police are going to be like, wow. But yeah, so before that, it was just, you get your cash card, you have to get cash and then you go, because everywhere is cash-based anyway, so you have to have cash. But nowadays, like I said, it's like 39% now, 39.3% accepts like digital and credit cards and stuff like that. So yeah, having a debit card makes sense versus before when it was only 13.2%.
Man, I never even thought about getting a debit card. When I first moved here, the biggest thing that I used was the Suica. Like I just loaded that thing up with all my cash all the time, and I just pretty much used it to pay for almost everything that I could.
Yeah.
And then I remember like leaving Tokyo one time to like Niigata or Gunma or something, like when we went snowboarding, and I had my Suica and all my cash was on there. I had no cash, and I was like, do you guys accept Suica? And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? Get out of here, Suica.
Speaking of Suica though, like I felt so cool because when Apple first came out with getting the Suica on your phone, I was like, oh man, I want to buy the Apple Watch so I can put Suica on it and I can show off to myself basically when I go to buy a drink at the vending machine. We're like, cling, and then get my drink.
Yeah, with your watch, yeah.
So
yeah.
Even now, whenever I do it and I get a drink with the Suica on my watch, I just feel like I'm in the future.
Do you do that? Do you do that when you get on the train sometimes? Like you have to put your left hand over to the right side too?
I'm left-handed. So I just put my watch on my right hand.
Oh, yeah.
So
dude, I always see those people going like this.
Yeah, if you're left-handed and you live in Japan and you want to have an Apple Watch for the train, it's perfect.
Yeah.
If you're right-handed, it's a pain in the ass because you have to like get your left hand and MacGyver over to the right.
I see those people all the time.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is how the address system is different from the US. So let me explain how it's different first. So Japanese addresses differ significantly from US addresses in structure and presentation. In Japan, addresses are written starting with the largest geographical unit and proceeding to the smallest, beginning with the postal code, followed by the prefecture, city or ward, district, block number, and building number, and ending with the recipient's name. This approach aligns with traditional Japanese communication styles, prioritizing context and setting before specifics, and emphasizing the broader location before the exact address. This contrasts with US addresses, which start with the recipient's name and progress from the specific street address to the city, state, and zip code. Unlike the US system that heavily relies on street names, Japanese addresses often omit them using block and building numbers within a district instead. I've had a few experiences ordering online from foreign sites. So like when you order, let's say you order from Walmart, because I tried ordering from Walmart a long time ago and having them send me like microphone equipment here. And when you put in the address, you have to put in, of course, your city and your state, right? But there's no states in Japan. So you have your city, your state, and then also when you have your address, you have line 1 and line 2. And in the Japanese address, it's like line 1 is your address, line 2 is your name. Or no, line 1 is your street and all that. And then line 2 is your actual apartment and the apartment number, right?
Oh man, I don't even know. Like I get confused about it even today.
Yeah, man. It can be a pain in the ass, especially if you haven't done it in a while. So even up to now, like if you haven't done it in a while and you just go online, you're just like, wait, what was it again? Yeah, so that happened to me a couple times.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of like little glitches and stuff that happens to different companies' systems because of the way that the Japanese address is set up.
Well, speaking of that, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I mean, I have a very good example here.
Yeah.
I'm currently waiting for a package from Amazon.
Yeah.
And I got an email yesterday saying the delivery could not be completed for some reason. So we called them today. My wife helped me. She called them. She said, sorry, what's the problem? And they said, oh, your address got cut off in the field from Amazon because it was too long. Amazon. I don't know if you must have had this experience because
I
you
had that
order from
experience
Amazon.
ordering stuff for you, remember?
Oh, okay. So what's the problem? It's just that the field doesn't take that much characters or something?
I don't know what it is with their stuff because my name is freaking long.
Oh, man. Yeah, so that was the problem. So I don't know. We had to call them and give them the correct address. And now apparently they're on their way. Yeah, I guess it's hard to like just make all the systems match and all the standards and everything around the world.
Yeah, right. Because it's not standardized. Yeah, so the next bit of like culture shock, and I don't know if this counts as shock, but it was really surprising to me was how recycling is mandatory and it's kind of tedious here. So let me talk about the logic behind Japan's trash separation. So Japan's waste management system is renowned for its meticulous trash separation and recycling practices, which are developed in response to the nation's limited landfill space and high population density. In the 1990s, Japan implemented recycling laws that significantly increased recycling rates, with the resource recycling rate rising from 8.2% in 1994 to 15.8% in 2014. Households are required to sort waste into categories such as burnable, non-burnable, and various recyclables, adhering strictly to local municipal guidelines. While Japan's overall recycling rate has remained around 20% in recent years, it excels in specific areas such as steel can recycling, which reached 88.1% in 2006, and plastic recycling, achieving an impressive 85% when thermal recycling methods are included. By contrast, the United States recycles about 32%, which is higher, of course, because Japan is at 20% of its waste overall, but only 8.7% of its plastic waste, highlighting differences in recycling strategies and efficiencies. So, yeah, in general, the US recycles more than Japan, but like the stuff that's used every day, Japan recycles more of that.
I was just thinking about Saipan, like growing up there, and you just throw everything in the trash.
Yeah, there's no separation. Just put everything in one bag.
Oh, man.
And there was a time, I don't know if they still do it now, but there was a time where you could recycle your drink cans and get money. So there was this homeless Chinese guy that was like, he had a wheelbarrow just walking around the whole island, getting people's cans. And I don't know if you ever saw him on the road, but he had like a gigantic bag, like full of cans, crushed cans. And then he would just take that over to the recycling plant and then get paid for it.
Yeah, you could make a good amount of money. I don't know, $50, $100 or something for recycling cans and stuff.
Yeah, but I think I heard from someone recently or I did hear from someone, I forgot who, but I heard from someone recently living in Saipan now that they discontinued that. But I don't know if it's true because it's just hearsay. It's just something that somebody told me. They might still be doing it, but I'm not sure because my family, we were doing it for a while and then they just stopped.
As we get closer to the US, like Hawaii, or I guess maybe even the mainland or stuff, then recycling is more common. Like you separate stuff into whatever, recyclables and then, biomass or whatever.
And then they had that time where like, if you recycled copper, you could get a pretty lump sum. So people were stealing power lines. I don't know if you remember that. Spools of power line.
No, they do that. Yeah, I think they still do that.
Yeah, and then the recycling plan was just like, you know what, no more copper because you guys keep robbing the government.
Dude, I just thought of what I do normally here at our house now. And we do put all the PET bottles. PET, by the way, stands for polyethylene, I think, which is like the type of plastic
Yeah, man, I knew
that
that.
they use.
Just kidding.
Oh.
I did not know that.
I think I looked that up one time. I was like, what is it? Why do they keep saying PET? And like, yeah, so we put that all into one bag and we separate it and we throw it out on that day. But man, I do not rip these labels off or take off. I think I do take off the caps for some reason. I think so they can crush it. I don't know. But I don't rip the labels off and rinse it out with water.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, my building's pretty strict. So we have to separate, for example, if you have newspapers and magazines, you have to separate those. If you have cardboard boxes, you have to separate those.
Yeah.
If you have anything that's made out of metal, you have to separate that, like a battery.
Yeah.
I don't know, if you have a cup, like a tumbler or something like that, you would separate that. That would go to like the non-burnable stuff section, I guess.
Yeah.
And then cans. There's even 2 types of cans. So you have the cans like the drinking cans, and then you have the cans like stuff that you need a can opener to open because that has like steel on it,
like
it
tuna.
has like a coating. Yeah, it has like a coating of something else on it, and then glass.
Yeah, it must be pretty strict for like those buildings, like multiple condominium buildings versus like single homes or something like that.
Yeah,
apartment buildings.
And you can even take it like a step further. So people who have seen this show repeatedly probably already know that there's a supermarket on the first floor of my building. And when you walk in the door, they have this thing in Japan called a genkan, which is like I don't even know if that counts as a genkan. It's just like this entrance area that has like the shopping carts. Because there's like separated by a door. There's 2 doors, right? There's the door that goes into the building and then the door that goes into the supermarket. But when you walk into that first door on the right, there's like all these recycling containers. So you can, for example, if you have a milk carton, you can tear that up, wash it, and then throw that in there. And then same thing for the styrofoam that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to go like hardcore recycling, you can take it that next step further.
Every single foreigner that visits Japan, no matter where they're from, immediately notices how clean and tidy it is. And not just the public, but everything, construction, how things are constructed, how things are in order and stuff like that. So it just makes sense that this is a normal part of daily life here.
Yeah. So I also have this one story. So back in, I think it was 2006 or early 2007, I came to Osaka. I was there for probably like 10 days. And when I arrived, there was a huge gash in my luggage. My luggage was one of those, the fabric types, the soft ones. So I went to like a luggage store. I think it was probably Yodobashi Kamera that has their luggage section. And I bought a good one. And then when it was time to leave Japan, I didn't know anything about recycling or throwing trash, or any of that stuff in Japan. I just threw everything in the same container at that time. So what I did was I just left the luggage in the hotel room and I just left. I don't know if that was the right choice to do. I'm sorry if that was you that had to take care of it, but I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Yeah, they probably just dump that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there is also, I don't know if we should talk about this.
What?
I don't know what your experience has been, but for me, it hasn't been a culture shock or anything. It's pretty convenient. You log on, you register, you apply to, you have to apply to throw away your bulk waste like bed frames or mattresses or suitcases or, big things.
Yeah.
And then you just buy a little sticker on the store. You stick it on your thing and make sure it's out there on the morning of the day that you're scheduled to have it picked up. And then it gets picked up. That's it. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So pretty much in a nutshell, if you come to Japan and you need to throw away something big, you have to pay to throw it away. It's not like you can just take it to a dump. You like in our case, what we have to do is go to the konbini or the convenience store, buy a sticker. Yeah. Slap that sticker on, and then we have to tell the super or the kaninin-san, hey, can you open that little gate thingy so we can put our big luggage or big trash in there? And then they're like, okay, cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then we go put it in there. So I threw away like tables recently. Somebody gave us like this malfunctioning air fryer. like they gave it to us and it was working, but like it was smoking like crazy. So we just tossed that. That was probably like 3 days ago.
So did you pay like 200, 400 yen for that?
I don't really know. My wife's the one that does all that stuff.
Okay.
I'm just the one that
The
carries
annoying
it.
part is you have to like, the annoying part is on the website, you have to look for air fryer or something similar to the size of an air fryer to get the right price for throwing it away.
Yeah, right. So the next one is actually something that was a pleasant surprise for me. And that's how people are very punctual, even in social situations. You know that even back in Saipan, when somebody says, we're going to do this party at here, I'm always like 15 minutes early. And that's because like, you know, my parents taught me, hey, show up early so you can help them get ready. So that's what I do. But it's standard in the islands, you know, Saipan, Guam, Hawaii, island time. Everybody shows up like an hour late. And that's totally normal. So like if they say be there if they say we're going to start at 3, that means they are going to start at 3. That's not you. So you can show up whenever the hell you want. And typically like an hour later is perfect because that's when like most of the people are showing up anyways. But yeah, in Japan, that's definitely not the situation. So punctuality is a deeply ingrained cultural value, reflecting respect for others and a commitment to collective harmony. So arriving on time, often 10 minutes early, is considered a sign of preparedness and courtesy in both professional and social settings. This emphasis on punctuality extends to public transportation, where trains and buses are famously precise, and even minor delays elicit public apologies. The roots of this cultural norm can be traced back to historical practices such as the Toki no Kane, known as the time bell during the Edo period, in which an actual bell was rung to regulate daily life and foster a collective consciousness of time. Traditions like this have shaped Japan's meticulous approach to time management, making punctuality a hallmark of the nation's social and professional interactions. I did not know they had a bell before. That's really cool.
If you think about like, if you were to make collective harmony one of the top values of your society, then time and bell stuff really makes sense. In the US, collective harmony is not a priority. So you ring a bell and tell everyone to move at the same time or show up at the same time. Everybody's like, man, go yourself.
Exactly. They're going to protest. But in all fairness to the US, it is a country that is a melting pot of different cultures. So you cannot really just demand a standardized way of life because there's so many huge populations of people from multiple nations.
But even in like the mainland versus the islands, like Saipan and Hawaii and Guam, it's not even that idea of go yourself. It's just like, whatever, man, just take it easy. Don't stress out.
I wanted to mention something about the public transportation because earlier I said that trains and buses are famously precise, but buses are not famously precise when it's very busy. So during rush hour, buses are late. At least in Kasai, buses can be like 20 minutes late. Like for example, Kasai Rinkai Park, in the evening, like they'll have 2 buses and then both of those buses will be late, but both of those buses will be jam-packed like the train. Like you're like pushing to get in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, can I ask you something?
What's up?
In Kasai, do you see a lot of advertisements for bus drivers because they're short of bus drivers?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to those.
Okay, because here I ride the bus every day here. I see ads everywhere all the time from the bus company saying, okay, become a bus driver, learn bus driver do, like Bushido, but they call it like
the way of the bus driver.
The way of the bus driver. Yeah. No, they really do that. I think that's what it means. But they're advertising a lot because they're short of bus drivers.
Yeah.
And what they did recently was and I think, I don't know if this is really not that common, but they have tandem liners. So, the buses that are connected to each other.
They have that little like accordion thing in the middle.
Yeah. So I think they have that. So they don't need extra bus drivers. They just get one person to drive two buses.
Yeah, I've seen those in those less populated areas. Yeah. Less densely populated, I mean.
Yeah. So I guess maybe out here it's like that. But it's pretty on time. I've never seen like super late ones like that.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on where you are. But like, because I'm in Tokyo and that happens to me, like, it's just surprising. 20 minutes late? Wow. That's unheard of.
Reminds me of home.
So the next piece of culture shock that I experienced is related to professionalism in Japan, particularly about it being overhyped. We're going to examine the contrast between Japan's polished external image taught in schools and even seen in movies. So the reality of Japanese professionalism is that Japan's professional culture is often perceived as a benchmark for formality and efficiency, with Japanese workers demonstrating exceptional diligence, attention to detail, and respect for hierarchy. This professionalism is evident in their meticulous work ethic and unwavering commitment to quality, often leaving outsiders with the impression of perfection. However, this perception shifts when examining behavior from the customer's perspective. While Japanese customers are generally more respectful in demeanor than Americans, their actions are comparable to those of customers worldwide, meaning that they make mistakes, express frustrations, or demand high service standards. And this is something that did surprise me in the beginning because, like we watch TV shows and all kinds of stuff about Japan back home. And then we have this image in our mind. And my image was like, everybody's so nice all the time. Everybody's so perfect all the time. And then when I came here and I saw that that's not the case, at least when Japanese are the customers, when they're the staff, for the most part, yeah. Every once in a while, you'll come across somebody who's like having a really bad day and they're working, and those people will show it. But for the most part, no, they're really good at hiding their emotions. But from the customer side, man, like I've seen so many different kinds of stuff. Like one time I walked into a Yoshinoya, and then as soon as I walked in, there was like this old drunk guy, and he was talking to the staff, and it looked like he was not angry. And the staff also didn't have like an angry face. And then the guy just leaned over the counter and threw his coins down super hard on the table so that they spread around all around the store. And the staff just remained calm. And then the guy just kind of like stumbled out of the restaurant. And I just sat down and just like, okay, it's going to be one of those nights. But in general, yes, they are more professional and more polite than the American counterparts, from my experience, because that's what the show is based on, right? Personal experiences.
Yeah. I just thought of the eightfold wall from Shogun. Check your emotions at the door, like for better or worse, forever. But I was gonna say, like that's kind of related to what I mentioned earlier. Like whenever of course, convenience stores are like the most common example. You go in and it's always cookie cutter, consistent interactions all the time.
Yeah.
So like when something is off from that, man, it really like shocks you. Like somebody's like, they don't greet you or they don't like say the same thing over. They just say something else. Or like they're having a bad day, like you said earlier, and they show it. And I remember like, that one time that happened to me and I was like, oh, it's kind of refreshing. I was like, oh, this feels a little bit more human.
Yeah. Man, but cookie cutter is the perfect word for that, because like so when staff speak to customers, they have already a set like list of replies to give when the customer asks a question and a set of questions to ask. And it's like you expect those to come. Like everybody expects it and they already know what to say. Yeah, so like you said, it's just really surprising when that doesn't happen. And then speaking of like professionalism also, I used to teach in cafes when I first came here. I was trying to do this thing to see if it's feasible to teach in cafes, because you only have to pay for your coffee and then you can get paid. And then one thing that happened to me repeatedly from different people, different backgrounds, different parts of Tokyo, they would ghost me on the day that they're supposed to pay, like completely just ghost me. I'm just like, oh my God, man, I was totally not expecting this, not this level.
Yeah.
And then what I would do is just like shrug it off and then contact them like throughout the month. And then eventually they'll reply and then pay me. And I'm just like, okay, so this person probably was having a tight money situation and they were embarrassed maybe. So they just like ghosted me until they could afford to take my lessons again, maybe. And I just took it in that kind of positive way so that I wouldn't get pissed off.
That's rude. That sucks.
But then on the flip side, I was watching the behind the scenes for, I think it was The Last Samurai, or maybe it was The Ring or The Grudge. But they were interviewing the actors, like the main actors, and one of the actors said, and when the director says cut, and then they have to get ready for the next scene, you just see like the Japanese like, what do you call those people in the background who like move stuff around? For example, if they have to put a camera on a rail, right? They have those people who rush in and put the rail on the ground, and then if they have to move the lights and they have to move the plants, and then they just like blam super fast within a few minutes. The whole thing is set up. And they were saying like, when I did other movies in the US, it's like everybody kind of just like lazily walks in, kind of like gauges how they're gonna do it, kind of like
a sense of urgency.
Yeah, they just like take their time. But with Japan, it's like poof, 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 super fast.
That reminds me of, and maybe this has something to do with professionalism and harmony and everything. New York Times documentary I watched recently where they followed a young 5-year-old girl around at school, and they showed what they teach children in Japan, which is how to be a part of a beating drum or beating heart or something. And like everybody has to beat at the same time. And if you're off time, man, you get scolded till you cry, and then you get everybody is in line.
What city is that? Because if they do that to my kids, I'm gonna get pissed off.
Man, I don't know what city it was, but I was watching it with my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, that's pretty much what it's like." But this teacher is kind of up.
Okay,
like the teacher that was like kind of scolding the girl for like being like, not scolding, but being like, "Hey, if you're not in line, make sure you're in line next time. Why aren't you in line? Think about it."
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, they make you feel guilty until you're gonna cry. That's messed up. Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do have like those Bushido level teachers once in a while that kind of like they'll put you down so that you don't do it again. But you're not supposed to do that in school, man. You're not supposed to do that at all. Don't do that to people. Yeah. So getting back to the positive stuff. So one thing that kind of surprised me was that there's no public transportation is not available 24/7. I was expecting that it would be because like a lot of people don't own cars in Tokyo. So I was thinking like, you could get public transportation, no problem. And then let me just explain first when and why trains stop at midnight, and then we'll get into it. So in Japan, train services typically operate from around 5 a.m. to midnight, with the last trains departing major stations between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. While practical for most commuters, this schedule also serves logistical and operational needs. The non-operational hours allow time for essential maintenance, track inspections, and cleaning, ensuring safety and efficiency. Additionally, halting services during late night hours helps manage energy consumption and operational costs. The decision aligns with cultural patterns as Japanese society traditionally adheres to earlier sleep schedules, reducing the demand for 24-hour train service. While some speculate that ending train operations early benefits the taxi industry by creating demand during late night hours, no concrete evidence supports this theory as a deliberate policy decision. So I have heard that from Japanese people before about like the reason why they stop the train is so that the taxis can get in on some of that business. But it's never been confirmed. So pretty much your only option is if you don't own a car in Japan and you're out past the last train, but you have to get home, you're going to take a cab. And it's going to cost you a lot of money if it's more than like 15 minutes away. Long story short, don't be out past midnight if you want to save money.
Man, it's so ingrained into the culture where it's like last train is always the thing on everybody's mind when you're out at night.
Yeah.
And it starts turning like 10, 11 p.m.
Yeah. I can't even count the number of times that I didn't make the last train and then I ended up going to karaoke because it's like the cheapest option. You go to karaoke, get the cheapest price possible, and you stay out all the way into the first train. Done that a bunch of times. Or you find a restaurant that's open all the way until 6 a.m. and then you just wait it. You just keep drinking until the first train.
We did that together one time in Osaka. I remember with one of our mutual friends, and then in the morning we went to go. Yeah, we were in a karaoke booth all night, and then in the morning we went to go eat a beef bowl. It's about as stereotypical as it gets.
Very short tangent. Since we're talking about like pretty typical as it gets, when I first came to Japan, Japanese people were telling me like, if you really, I mean, one way you know that you're turning Japanese is if you have a Tsutaya membership card, because Tsutaya membership cards are kind of hard to get. Like you either have to have a driver's license or you have to have like, I forgot what the rules are, but it's not easy to get. So when I got mine, I was like, I'm officially Japanese, even though I don't have a passport.
Man, I felt officially Japanese when I started to be forced to put on the masks. Because I never really wear masks personally, but then Corona came and then I started wearing it and I was like, oh. Anyway, that's a different subject.
Yeah, because even Americans had to do that for a while. And then they protested that too. I remember they interviewed this one lady. I think she was like from Mexico or something. Like she was one of the immigrants. And she was like, I cannot breathe. Why are you taking away my ability to breathe? All right. So the next one we have is related to owning a car in Tokyo and how it's overrated. Let me talk about the hurdles of car ownership in Tokyo. So owning a car in Tokyo presents several challenges, primarily due to high costs and logistical constraints. One significant hurdle is the requirement to provide proof of a parking space within a 2-kilometer radius of your residence before purchasing a vehicle, a system known as the garage certificate, aka Shako Shoumei, which ensures compliance with laws prohibiting overnight street parking. Parking fees in Tokyo are also notably high, with monthly rates ranging from 20,000, right now probably like $140 or $150 to 80,000 yen, depending on proximity to central areas, while short-term parking averages 100 to 500 yen per 15 to 30 minutes. Popular destinations like shopping centers often experience long waiting times for parking spaces during peak hours, adding to the inconvenience. These factors, combined with vehicle inspection and maintenance costs, contribute to Tokyo's low car ownership rate of approximately 0.32 vehicles per household, significantly lower than Japan's national average of about 1.06 vehicles per household. As a result, many residents choose Tokyo's efficient public transportation system over the complexities of owning a car. And I have not owned a car yet. I don't think I will, because so many times when I'm with people and we go somewhere and we're trying to have fun, we'll end up having fun and the person who was driving the car was not able to have fun. Either it's because they're the designated driver and can't drink, or like, let's say Costco, for example, like every single time I go to Costco, it's packed. Like my father-in-law, a couple times, he drove us down there and he's like, I'm going to go find parking. And then we end up leaving Costco before he found the spot. So he just ends up being in the car the whole time, waiting to find a parking spot that never opened up. Yeah. If you're planning to go to a place that's popular, don't bring your car.
Was that on a peak Costco time, like weekends or something? I don't even know what peak Costco time is.
Sometimes we go on the weekdays, but it's still packed. Every day of the week, Costco is packed because they're only like, I don't even know if they have one in Tokyo. Like I know of one in Kaihin Makuhari in Chiba, and this other one, I forgot what's the exact city name, but that one also, there's only two and it's super packed. Same deal with like IKEA. It's like the best time to go there is right when they open. So like be lined up before they open. So it's like,
man, it really is like crowded. And I don't know if you had this in your notes too, but it's super expensive to get your license.
Oh, it is?
And a long process. Yeah, I heard it's like a couple grand.
Yeah, if you take the lessons, I think that's sounds about right.
Yeah, so I don't have a car. I'm not thinking about it anytime soon. It'd be nice, but...
Dude, I have 3 kids and I don't have any plan to buy a car.
I know, because man, that's crazy.
Owning a car in Japan is like having another kid. Just even my in-laws' parking space, they were telling me, oh yeah, we pay $300 a month for parking. And it's not even in Tokyo, it's in Chiba. which anybody who knows anything about Japan, the further you get away from Tokyo, the cheaper the prices get. And Chiba is not Tokyo.
Yeah.
So it should be a lot cheaper, but it's not. $300 a month. And when I saw their parking, it's like, it's not even like paved. It's just rocks, like gravel, and there's like grass growing everywhere. And there's like dog doo-doo sprinkled around. The only real value from having a car in Japan or in Tokyo, I don't want to say Japan. You definitely need a car in the country, but if you're in Tokyo, you only want to have a car if you're going to be transporting a lot of stuff, like stuff, not people, but stuff.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to meiwaku, translate to English. You don't want to cause problems for other people on the train by bringing super large like stuff with you on the train. The next one, we're talking about how city people are completely different from country people. That was a culture shock for me. So I'm going to talk about urban life, how urban life prioritizes privacy and rural life prioritizes camaraderie. Metropolitan centers like Tokyo are characterized by a fast-paced lifestyle where residents often prioritize personal space and privacy, leading to more reserved interactions. This is especially pronounced in Tokyo, one of the world's largest and most densely populated metropolises, where the sheer number of people and limited physical space make privacy a highly valued commodity. In contrast, rural areas are known for their close-knit communities and strong camaraderie among residents. This communal spirit fosters a welcoming environment for newcomers and visitors, with locals often going out of their way to offer assistance and engage in friendly conversation. The cultural meticulousness inherent in Japanese culture elevates these dynamics. In Tokyo, privacy and respect for others' time and space are meticulously observed, while in rural areas, traditional Japanese values of service and care are expressed through personalized hospitality. This heightened emphasis on privacy and camaraderie underscores Japan's unique interplay between its cultural ethos and urban-rural divide. So, long story short, city people tend to be less open and country people tend to be more open. Let's take Saipan, for example. Super open spaces, beautiful oceans, and the people there, if you're walking down the beach and there happens to be a family that's barbecuing and they see you alone, they're going to call you over and they're going to be like, hey, we're having a barbecue. You want to come and have something to eat? And if you say no, they'll be like, come on. They're going to be the one egging you. They're going to be the ones trying to persuade you to come in. Yeah, and it's awesome, man. The hospitality that we experience in Saipan is crazy good. And you can expect something similar in the country of Japan. You go to the countryside, oh man. I remember like visiting my in-laws up in Iwate, and my wife's oldest uncle, he'll touch my beer, lift it for a second, and if he senses that it's less than 90% full, he'll get me a new one.
Less than 90.
Less than 90%. And I'm just like, it's in the middle of summer, right? And summer in Japan is super hot. So I'm like, oh man, I don't want to disrespect this guy by drinking a warm beer. So let me finish this as quickly as possible so I can get to the second one. And then sometimes right when I open the second one, he puts the other one next to me and I'm like, oh man, thank you so much. Another thing you commonly see in Saipan is like there will be a picnic table made of wood, obviously. No, not obviously. There will be a picnic table made of wood and it'll have some congressman's name like written across the side in paint. And then there'll be some designated person at the end of it sitting on a cooler whose job is to open the cooler and give people beers when they want one. It's so awesome. Yeah, so my experience with Japan is they'll keep bringing you beers, and then experience in Saipan is every time you need one, you just be like, hey, let me get one. And then the guy would just get up, get you your beer, and then sit back down. And all is right in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't really felt like I've had those nostalgic, warm, similar experiences that you would probably experience in the countryside, like you said. Even like, you watch Kato's videos and stuff, like it's how it is. But Tokyo, man, I've just been in Tokyo the whole time. So it's nothing but just moving.
You just take your wife on a trip to somewhere in the country. And then like, for example, I went to Gunma in 2018, I think it was. And when we were there, we were looking for a supermarket and we found a convenience store nearby our hotel. When you think country, you think like they don't have everything everywhere, right? So we walked into this convenience store and it's dimly lit. There's spider webs growing on like the corners of the wall.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
almost everything we picked up was expired.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
and then the guy who was at the register, though I'm assuming was the owner of the place, was like maybe like 80 some years old. He could barely walk. So like we brought everything to the counter and then he would turn everything over and take a look at the expiration date, realize they're all expired. Then he'll shuffle on to where we found that stuff and try to replace it with something and bring it back. And then when we got to the hotel, half of the stuff was still expired. But we just told ourselves, you know what? As long as there's no dairy in it, it's gonna be fine. So we just whatever had dairy in it, we just threw it out. And then whatever didn't have dairy in it, we ate it and it was fine. And we were just thinking to ourselves, this is awesome. Like where everything is not so perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a welcome inconsistency to everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like we said with the cookie cutter thing, if something's like out of place, it kind of shocks you, but it's also refreshing at the same time.
I even took some photos of my family when we were there and you could feel the genuine happiness in my kids in the photos, man. I took a picture of my daughter holding like a tub of ice cream, which she...
In Gunma?
Yeah. I took a picture of my daughter when she was like 2, I think, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Holding a tub of ice cream, which she didn't eat because it was expired. but she looked so happy in the photo. And then when we brought it back to the hotel, she's 2 or 3, doesn't remember that she had the ice cream. So we just threw it out before she noticed that it was missing. But yeah, everywhere we went, man, we went to this restaurant. In that same trip, we went to a soba restaurant that had like a farmer's market outside. And it wasn't really a market. It's more like, it's just like they were just selling vegetables outside of the restaurant. It's not it's not something you would see in Tokyo. So it's a restaurant with vegetables on the outside. I don't know why.
They're selling.
And then so we ate there. And then on our way out, they gave us a bag of potatoes, like raw potatoes. I don't mean potato in the Japanese word for French fries. I mean like real deal potatoes. And we're just like, oh, thank you. And we're going back to our hotel with a bag of potatoes, right? Still has the dirt on it and everything. We're just like, wow.
Oh, man. It's, you see it in I'm going to say this again, but you see it in Kato's videos and stuff. Like, countryside, it's nice. That's all I want to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. You can feel a weight like fall off your chest just because of the nature itself. Like and when I say nature, I mean like plants and stuff like that. You know, you don't see concrete everywhere. Concrete, steel, and glass. It's green, brown. You smell the grass. You smell the leaves. Even the air smells different. The next part, we're talking about seasonal allergies. Because I get it pretty bad every year. And I actually have an interesting fact about why Japan struggles with pollen. So let me get into that.
Okay.
Seasonal allergies, particularly hay fever caused by Japanese cedar known as sugi and cypress known as hinoki, pollen, affect a significant portion of Japan's population, with approximately 42.5% of individuals experiencing some form of hay fever as of 2019, and 38.8% affected explicitly by cedar pollenosis. This widespread issue stems from post-World War II reforestation efforts when vast cedar and cypress forests were planted to support the construction industry. As these trees matured, they began producing substantial amounts of pollen, leading to a significant rise in allergy cases starting in the 1960s. The pollen season typically begins in late January or mid-February, peaks in March and April, and can persist for several weeks. During this period, many residents experience symptoms such as sneezing, nasal congestion, and itchy eyes, which can significantly impact daily life. In response, a substantial industry has developed, offering products like protective masks, eyewear, air purifiers, and specialized filters to alleviate symptoms. The government has also taken measures to combat the problem, including developing low pollen cedar varieties and providing public pollen forecasts to help individuals manage exposure. Despite these efforts, seasonal allergies remain a significant concern, affecting the health and productivity of a large population segment each year. So that's interesting. It makes it seem like the reason why everybody wears masks all the time, even before COVID, is because of World War II.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that. Are you affected by seasonal allergies here?
Yes. I started to after a few years. So probably I've been here for over 10 years now. So probably after after 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year, just recently, past few years.
Yeah.
I started to get allergies. So like my nose would run and I'm sneezing and my eyes would itch and stuff. Yeah. All the standard stuff.
Yeah.
And I just figured like, oh, that sucks. I read somewhere that, once your pollen, allergy reactors
tolerance?
get filled up.
Okay.
Yeah. Once it gets filled up, then that's when the allergies start. So I guess I was starting empty and then it filled up after a few years. So yeah, I deal with that.
Yeah.
It's not too bad though. It's kind of fine. It's fine. It's really bad for you.
Yeah, like I'll get it so bad, like it'll give me stomach problems. And then sometimes sometimes I'll be like coughing all day or sneezing all day. And even just sneezing makes you tired, because if you sneeze like 15 times in like 3 minutes, you're going to get tired because the amount of muscles you use to put out all that energy. The first time I experienced it was when I came to Osaka with my cousin. His name's Paul. You know him, skater, one of the Powerhouse Boys. We were in the train going to the zoo in Osaka. And as we got closer, my eyes started turning red. I was coughing a lot, sneezing a lot. And I was like, oh man, I think I'm coming down with something. Because I didn't know about hay fever at all. And then we got to the zoo and continued. And then when we got back to our hotel, it was gone. And I was like, what the hell was that? That was weird. And turns out that's what it was. And I just didn't know the whole time. But yeah, I get it pretty bad. My solution, I have this dehumidifier in my room, and it has like a charcoal filter in it. And if I leave it on for like an hour before I do anything in this room, it will just like filter out all of that pollen and makes the room smell nice too.
So you're stuck with this forever, basically.
Yeah, but they have some really good medicines. Like one I would recommend to you guys out there thinking of moving to Japan and get hay fever or seasonal allergies. It's called Bufferin, Bufferin. And
I know this.
I use that, and basically it dries out your system so that I don't know the science behind it, but what I notice when I take it is like my throat gets dry, so I have to drink a lot of water. I get really sleepy for like an hour. So I try to take it like before I go to sleep, and then I'm good like all the way until the next afternoon. Yeah, it's very effective for me. So the next one we're going to get into is actually the last one. And we're talking about Shinagawa's immigration office and how slow it is or was, and how very similar it is to your typical DMV experience, but like enhanced, because I'll tell you the story, but let me explain first the complexity of Japan's immigration process. So Japan's immigration system has historically faced significant challenges, particularly concerning inefficiencies and inconsistencies in processing applications. Applicants have reported extending waiting periods, sometimes exceeding 6 months, for procedures like the certificate of eligibility, with requests for additional documents further prolonging the process. Language barriers at immigration offices, especially in major centers like Tokyo, have compounded these difficulties, making the system challenging for non-Japanese speakers. In response, the Japanese government has implemented reforms to streamline procedures, including the 2019 amendments to the Immigration Control and Refugee Recognition Act, which introduced new visa categories like the Specified Skilled Worker program to address labor shortages and improve efficiency. Regarding staff interactions, experiences vary widely. While some applicants encounter courteous and helpful officials, others report less favorable interactions, highlighting inconsistencies in service quality. And that last bit is very much true for me regarding the Shinagawa immigration office. I always go in there with every interaction I have in Japan with somebody that I just met. I always try to think, how can I approach this and throw in that Saipan hospitality into it? So I always greet people with like a hello and good morning or whatever, with a smile, like a genuine smile. I'll go to the counter, for example, early in the morning, and I'll be like, "Ohayou gozaimasu." And then once in a while, or I would say 50-50, the person will look at me and be like, "Ohayou gozaimasu," with like a kind of surprised smile, like, wow, this guy's having a good morning. And then sometimes they won't even look at me and don't respond at all. And then they'll just look at my passport and say, "Show me your face," or like, "Take off your mask." And then like no expression on their face at all. So sometimes they're really kind. Usually tends to be younger women, and sometimes they're really not kind. That tends to be the younger men. The older men, from my experience, tend to be nice, and just women in general tend to be really nice in the office.
Yeah.
So if you get stuck with a dude and he's young, you're probably not going to have a good experience.
I think probably I only went down there once with Shinagawa immigration. I don't even remember. But like for the past few years, and I think even before when I was working at the other company, the company handled the stuff for me.
Oh, okay.
So, I didn't really go down there so much. I did my experience with immigration. I was going to talk about like city hall experiences and stuff, but I don't think it's really related to this.
Oh, okay.
But not so much experience with Shinagawa immigration.
Yeah. And regarding like the long waiting times, for context, I have to get my residence card renewed every year because of some kind of complication I had when I first came here. And there was this one time, I think it was back in maybe 2014 or 15, I want to say. I ordered a camera on Amazon and I was waiting for it to get delivered. I was like, oh man, I really want to get this camera. We didn't leave the house until like 10:30. And then when we got there, it was somewhere around 11:30. I ended up staying there all the way until 9 p.m. So that was the first time that happened to me. But spending an entire 9.5 hours sitting down waiting, that was terrible. But
wow, that was Shinagawa?
Yeah. And that was a while ago. So there was an incident, I don't know if it was, I think it was during COVID, where some guy brought a knife and like threatened the people there. And they started requiring people to like open their bags and show what's in it.
Oh, yeah.
And then after the pandemic ended, I noticed like a massive change up in the staff. Like a lot of younger people came in. A lot of the older people were not there anymore. And then everything would just seem to flow faster. So you line up outside, and then when they let you in, everybody would rush, right? They would rush to the line that they're supposed to be in. And then the first line would be one where they just check your documents to make sure you have everything with you. And then after that, you have to line up again to submit the documents. And then after you submit the documents, you have to wait for them to give you this receipt, basically, that says, we took a look at your documents and we'll let you know when you're supposed to come in to pick up the ID. That's how it used to be. But now, at least how it was for me last year, is I lined up. When they let us in, I would rush to that first counter. But instead of them just checking my documents, they would check the documents and give me the receipt at that time. So I'll be out within like 20 minutes. It's quick.
Wow, that's good.
But you have to go there and line up before they open. That is the key. If you show up like mid-afternoon, you're going to be there all night.
Oh,
I cannot verify that for sure because I haven't been stupid enough to try it. But I would just say err on the side of just show up early.
Yeah, well, that's good that at least you found a way to not stay there all day.
Yeah, for real.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then it's good that also that they're speeding stuff up.
Bureaucracy is pretty efficient in my experience when I go to city halls and stuff, but that's all I have to add. Like, it's been pretty... do you have good experiences other than immigration? Like
Yeah, if
City
I go
Hall
to
and
City
stuff?
Hall, it's always positive. Like they're
Oh,
fast.
yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah. Me too.
super
Me too.
friendly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Super
Everything
fast,
is
super
so good when you go to a
efficient.
City Hall. But when you go to
Man,
immigration,
it's
I
like,
guess because they deal with so many
oh, okay.
complaining foreigners
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That too.
that can't speak Japanese.
Yeah. Man, City Hall is like time warp. Like it's so fast. It's crazy.
Yeah, it puts American
Ikebukuro.
counters to to shame.
Oh my God, man. It's crazy. Next.
Boom, 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 boom. You're out. That's it for today's episode. If you have any questions or any stories you'd like us to share, please let us know in the comments section, or you can just send me a comment on the website. Until next time, excuse me, Miss Ed, and see you.